Hello, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining my session today on data privacy governance. My name is Ramesh Swaminathan. I'm a Director of Product Management with Informatica within the Data Privacy Governance Group. Today, I'm going to talk about data privacy governance and talk about what is data privacy governance, why is it important, and how do you go about operationalizing data privacy governance within an enterprise. So let's delve into this straight away. What is the objective of a data governance and a privacy practice within any enterprise, right? Enterprises today are all global. They work across various geographies. There are goods and services that is actually moved across various geographies, and you have customers, employees working across various geographies. Now, you need to able to create a repeatable and reliable framework to comply with various state regulations. Now we have seen an uptick in the number of regulations that's coming up on how you manage your data. Every day we see newer regulations coming up across the globe. We see changes happening to existing regulations, and this is a phenomena that will keep happening. And data privacy governance as a practice is not something new. This is something that organizations have always been doing. Organizations that want to unlock value of the data that they have been storing because of the various business transactions that they have been doing over a period of time is something that organizations have always been doing. With a few years ago, with the emergence of various big data technologies, the value that you can unlock by creating intelligent data solutions, by employing various artificial intelligence tools to derive value, to create analytical capabilities within an organization and enable organizations to create services based on the data that they have collected about their customers has been happening. But now, why did you see all this data privacy governance coming up a lot these days? Is basically because now, because there's this lot of data that is being stored, because there's lot of data that is being transferred to different organizations outside of your enterprise and within your enterprise across geographies, there is a need to ensure that the data that you're collecting, about your customers, about your employees, is stored in a secure way, and people who do not have access to this data should not lay hands on it so that this can be misused. Now, when you start looking at operationalizing a governance program within an enterprise, uh, it might look formidable. There are quite a few challenges that's coming up, right? The policies are unclear. You don't have a set of clear governance policies that are defined, right? Because geographically, every geography would have their own kinds of governance policies, and interpretation of those policies would also differ across various enterprises, across various geographies. Now, how do you ensure that you have a clear idea of what these policies are is a challenge. And the second one is you're not able to identify where this information is. There are a lot of these informations available. You are collecting a lot of this information, but you need a way to identify where all this information is stored. And once this information is stored, the information does not stay in a single system. Information moves across various systems for processing the data, right? I mean, you could have an employee data being moved to an external vendor system, say, for example, for a payroll information. Or if you're an insurance company, maybe there are third-party providers who are processing insurance claims for you. So the private data, the subject data, as GDPR calls it, of a customer, the personally identifiable data, the financial data of a customer, is something that you're storing, you're processing across various entities within and outside your organization. Being able to track this and being able to govern on this data that is moving is a challenge. And we do not have lots of ways in which you can anonymize this data, right? There could be data breaches that might happen. Data breaches might be internal data breaches. Gartner really, in one of the recent report, commented that 60% of data breaches are internal data breaches and not really external data breaches that's happening in an organization. And because you're storing a lot of these personal data, personally identifiable data and financial data, this data is unsafe for exposure to various downstream applications that are actually running your analytical tools and things like that, right? But once you have a framework in place, a set of automated tools in place, as part of your privacy and governance journey, what you will see the benefits is like you are able to automate this whole process of documenting what your governance policies are, classifying, identifying where all your data is, classifying this data as per various policies that you have defined within your organization, protect this data as per these governed policies, and also respond to requests. The request could be coming from an internal auditor. A request for compliance could be coming from a controller of a regulation, or could even be coming from uh, your own subjects. Basically, it could be your customers or your employees. So once you have an overarching framework that you have set in place and tools to automate these processes, you will be able to respond to these requests. You will be able to adhere to these regulations that's coming up on a daily basis quite effortlessly. That's not the only benefit, right? I mean, adherence to compliance, you're not getting value out of it, but you are also understanding risks. You're prioritizing remediations, which effectively means that you're creating ways in which you're reducing your risk exposure. You're speeding up your controls that you can place on the data. And having done all this, we are talking about controlling data, locking up data, protecting data, and things like that. But what you should keep in mind is there is this big potential of value creation with the data that you have. There is this big digital transformation that's happening across enterprises, where there are newer digital tools that are being brought into the enterprise, so that you can improve the agility of doing business. You can put the right kind of data into the right hands, so that businesses can thrive, businesses can create value, can provide newer ways of providing products and services to your customers, thereby improving your revenue share, improving your way of monetizing data that you are storing. And for all this, you need to have a data privacy governance solution in place within your organization. Now let's talk about, we talked about what, right? Let's talk about why you need this kind of a governance privacy solution, right? It's all about value creation from the data that you have. You can be compliant because you want to be compliant. I mean, you are forced to be compliant because of the various federal laws that's out there, right? You want to be compliant because you want to avoid fines. You want to be out there because the respective governments in various geographies want to protect the consumer rights. You want to respond to subject requests because in a way that is fast, in a way that is compliant to the various timelines. You want to reduce liability. You want to reduce liability on the kind of data, sensitive data that you're storing within your organization, and ensure that you pass all the security audits, that mandatory security audits that you'll have to do within an organization. But that's about compliance, right? But then there is the flip side to it, wherein you are unlocking value. You're unlocking value of the data that you are holding within your organization. you you are lowering with a complete data privacy governance and governance framework in place. You will actually have, you will look at various benefits, right? One of the major benefits that I personally see some of our customers unlocking is creating new customer-centric products, understanding customer behaviors because of the data that is collected, and provide services that leapfrog competition, which will eventually increase your customer satisfaction, create long-term brand loyalty. And the big piece here is on trust. Your customers will want to do business with you if they trust you, and they should trust you with the data that you are holding about them. You should be transparent about your data privacy governance practices with your customers. The customers should trust you that you are holding their data securely and using it only based on where you need to use them. And that's where you're going to lock value. The other unlock value. The other pieces is like things like improving your data quality parts of it, and also lowering the total cost of running your various apps and resources are things that are big in the minds of a CDO when he or she is actually bringing in a privacy governance practice. And there are two, as I talked about in my a few minutes ago, right? You would want to, from a different stakeholders perspective in an organization, you would want to drive value creation from data, right? If you are a CDO, you're head of the data practice within an organization who is in charge of creating and executing a large digital transformation initiative within your organization. As you are executing on your digital transformation journey, you have to ensure that the various policies, regulations are all put in place. The data is secure, the data is safeguarded, and is integrated. All the data that is being stored is integrated with your governance and security practice, and all the stakeholders are aligned. The business stakeholders, the technical stakeholders, the legal stakeholders, all of them are aligned together in how data is stored within an organization and how data is used within an organization. You could be a line of business owner whose your role is looking at optimizing revenue, is optimizing the various business processes that you have within an organization. You are purely looking at a return on investments. You're looking at how can I generate value? How can I generate more revenue? And for that to happen, you need data. You need data, but you need data that is privacy preserved. You need data that you know that you can trust. You need data that you know is in the right hands of people, and the data is available for consumption. But you will also have to limit your data exposure. If you're a CISO, you're a privacy compliance officer, you have to identify all the places where you are storing sensitive data. You need to have a catalog of all the places where you are storing sensitive data. The first part there is first identify where all data is, right? Catalog that, discover the data, classify that data, and have risk mitigation plans, have protection plans for all the data that you have within your organization. And as a privacy officer, how do you ensure that you're compliant to various rules? But you also have to ensure that as there is democratization of data, where there are consumers of data who are requesting for data, you need to ensure the data is available to them, but is privacy preserved.